Hey everyone, Tim Higgins here. So I'm going to do a quick video on the concept of find and reserve. Now, the find and reserve in TDM, it's a really smart way to have your testers or your developers, and when you say testers, that's a broad range, right? QA or whoever, that whenever they're testing, they can build a pseudo where clause, if you will, in the back end. And what it does is it allows them to build it through the UI to get their bulk of data that they need for testing and either use it right away or save it for later or even share it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start with, now I thought I'd start with orders. Orders is a pretty good database. It comes with TDM. So one of the reasons I thought I'd start with it is because if you have TDM, then you have orders as a database if you install it. If not, you can download it for free and install it. And it has a lot of good data in it, and it's used in a lot of the examples, but I'm going to use it just because it's there, it's easy, it's free. Okay, free for you, right? Now, what I'm looking at is orders. When you think about orders, orders is a good example too, because we have an order date, the status code looks pretty good. So let's go into what we have. And what is this? Order total. So you know what? I could say stock and total amount. That may be kind of interesting. All right. So, but anyway, what I was thinking was order date and a status code. But that's okay. We'll play with it when we get there. So I'm going to start in GT Data Maker, and the reason I'm starting here is because a lot of customers already have work started. So when they're starting their data, they probably already started with GT Data Maker and didn't start in the portal. So we're going to start there as well. Now, in all fairness, you can always start directly in the portal, and you'll see that as I go through. So the only thing we're really going to do over here in GT Data Maker is we're going to create a project. New project. We'll call it orders. And what I want to do is get rid of my data group because I don't use it. Delete. And if you all know me, I like to export to CSV. So that make my default. We need a version, so we'll call this orders. You know, we'll just call it orders for now. You'd probably want to give it a name that makes sense. But for now, we'll just say orders. The next step you have to do is register the tables. Now, I've already created the profile, so we're good there. But what I want to do is I only want the orders. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab two of these so you can see in the web how cool the TDM tool can do the mapping for you. So even though we're going to use orders, I'm going to pick order items as well. Okay, sure. Recalculate, close, and if I refresh, we should have two tables. We got them, so we're good. So now we're done with GT Data Maker. So now we're going to go here to the portal. We're going to refresh. I wish there was a little status to tell me how much time refreshing, but it doesn't. So we'll go here, orders. All right, so now if I go to data modeling, well, let me go to objects first. I can see I've got my two tables. Now, that's the marriage between the two. So let's go back to find and reserve. So I have my objects. Now, the cool thing is I don't have to start with it. Well, let me back up. You do have to start with an environment. So let's create an environment, and we'll call it stage. No, that doesn't have to be capitalized. Just have it. Now we need to create a data source. We'll call this one, what are we doing here? Orders. DS, you know what, let's call it stage. Now, here's the profiles that I already have. So let's go down to orders. Okay, and save. Now I can have as many of those as I want. So you could have one for testing, one for QA, one for production, whatever environment you want. But again, we didn't keep this simple. So now when I go to data modeling, now I don't have a model, but TDM is really cool, especially if you start with SQL Server and you already have relationships on actually finding all these. So I just wanted to show you that, which is really neat. So give it a second to run through. So notice it found 31 tables. And so here, if I go through this, and if we go down to catalog, oh no, I'm sorry, it's orders. See, it already picks the relationships for you on these, which is really cool. So when I registered the two orders and order items, I didn't have to. I forgot that it shows you the whole list based off your profile. But I wanted to show you that it already creates your relationships, which is really cool. Now you can modify these relationships, and you also have different views. I can click on this view, and this view is really cool because it kind of tells me the driving table, which is right here, which is orders. Okay, and that's really neat. I can zoom in. I can edit the relationships. So all that's really cool. And then of course you have, I'm not sure what this view is called. It's kind of like what we'd call the heat map. But I'm not sure why I would use it there. Oh, I apologize. That's for PII data. So if I was scanning for like, and maybe I'll do a video on that. I wasn't sure why it was here at this level, but see, I can run a PII scan. But anyway, so that's it. And the good news is, since it already created relationships, again, I can edit these relationships if I wanted to. I can delete, I can add new. Kind of the same thing you could do with GT Data Maker, just with a web front end. But the good news is I like this. So we're done. So there's nothing more to do this. So what we're going to do now is go to the Find and Reserve. Now I'm going to create a model. Now this is kind of misleading, and I'll show you why in a few seconds. So we'll call it orders by... I think you can have spaces here, but as a developer and best practices, I don't like to have spaces. So we'll say order by status. Or you know, order by order date. Okay. And I don't think I have to have a description. I don't. What I mean by this is kind of misleading is because notice I only have my orders table. And then if I go down, like when you look at the model, it shows all of them, right? So you're building a model for Find and Reserve. So if you think of programming, I think of it as like an MVC model or model view controller model, that this is the model for my Find and Reserve, not for my project, okay? So if I go through here and look for orders, what you're really doing is you're identifying what you want your where clause to be by. So we said order date, okay, and then a status code. All right, so finish. Now you get this error. You may or may not. It says connection profile not found. It's okay. It still works, oddly enough. So I'm going to turn it on to show reserved rows. If I had my testers set up for this project, now I do have a tester down here, but I don't have them set up for this project. So if you go to users, user groups, you'd want to set up the testers. Then you'd be able to assign your testers and you'll be able to turn that on. But the good news is, as you saw, I clicked away and came back. Well, you're done. Once you selected what items you want to use, it's pretty much complete. Okay. Okay, so if I go look at my self-started catalog, I can see it here. Notice the underlines is what I named it. That's why I said I believe you can have spaces, but to me, best practice, I just don't. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a new request. Now, notice here I have my where clauses. So it's going to start with order date. So let's go get a good order date. I'm just going to grab the first one. Now, if you notice, it's only a date. And it recognizes the timestamp the way it's done in the database. So let's get rid of our time. And then status code. Now, in theory, it will do a drop down once you start typing. I've seen that work and seen it not work, but we're going to call it complete. Okay, so. And now notice you get the error about the drop down thing. And it kind of works sometimes, kind of doesn't. Notice it worked that time. Now here I can have as many as I want. So we can say complete. We can also say, maybe I want to do a complete and a cancel. And that's what makes this very unique and very convenient, is the fact that I'm building a massive where clause without having to know what that is, right? And the good thing here is I can also say I want the date to be on or before this ship date. Okay, and so now I'm going to start typing in complete. And notice I get that error saying the drop down. Again, that's fine. Did we mess up complete? Let's just take it from the database. Nope, we're good. So if I take this, okay, and I just want to say fine. So it found the one, which is fine because we didn't do on or before. We're good there. Again, this just tells me the drop down failed. I'm not sure I care at this point, to be honest with you. I saw it start to come up, but normally you get a drop down and it has all your your data for this table, but again, I don't care because it's not the point of this video. But notice now I can scroll down. So I selected this. I want to include it as a reserve, and we're going to go ahead and add it as a reserve. Let's get this error away. Add to reserve. It really don't like this complete thing, does it? What if I do that? There we go. Okay. Don't know why I was complaining, but now we're good. Now I have the drop down. So now we're going to add it to reserve. And I'm going to say complete. Okay. And now we're good. So now what that gave me is not only did I find the data that I was looking for based off the where clause, but now I saved it for later. So I can go over here. These are other ones that I did in the past. Now notice these releases. We'll talk about that in a second. But if I click on this, it gives me my information. So here's my information here, right? The environment, the reserve, the model. This was my data. So if I click on this, it would download the data for me. Now notice it says release. That means I'm holding this query for as long as I want it. Now I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to release these other two, which have nothing to do with this project. Well, they won't work because I've deleted those projects, but I can release this one. So notice it's now being released. So what that means, if I came back later, then that one would no longer be there. Let's get rid of all projects. This one, I'd have to go create it again. So I hope that made sense of what this is, Find and Reserve. I apologize about some of the UI screen issues, but that's just some of the things you get when you're working anyway. So I hope this made sense. And keep in mind, the concept here is very simple, is that the testers can come in, they can basically do their where clauses, and they can request their data. Now this one's working, right? But pretty soon it'd be missing. I'd have to go and request it again. But let's say I had this data, I could share it with other developers, and I can share it with other testers, and they can log in and they can see the query. So I can come here and create a whole bunch of these queries if I wanted to. And then the self-service catalog, I did a video on that, but the concept is this is where you would log in to get your data, okay? And again, that one is there because we did the Find and Reserve on it, right? Which is up here. And you can create as many of these as you want too. So I did that one basically on the concept of just the orders, right? And the main one I'm looking for is the order date in this case, because we're doing it by a certain date. So anyway, so I hope there was hope this made sense. And again, I apologize about some of the UI issues. I did point out some of the issues that you would have, but a lot of times it just works. So look at it anyway. If it's something you truly need, then I recommend contacting CA support, or if you know me, reach out to me. Anyway, hope you enjoyed.